Hello everyone and welcome to this video. My name is Foad Alavi, and in this series of video I'm going to talk about authentication, authorization, and Microsoft Identity as a membership provider. Then stay tuned. Let's talk about the project structure that we will have in this series. We will have 4 different projects, one of them for APIs, another one for authentication, the other for UI, and one services. In the UI, we will have one ASP.NET Razor page application. In the Auth and API projects, we will have Web API project. Auth project is responsible for logging in and generate JWT token for me. And in the application API, we are going to consume this token and authenticate using this token. All the functionality and behaviors that I have will be implemented inside the services. Application services is the part that I have all my business implementation there. And we have a database, and this services is going to call database, and my membership provider will be stored in the database. Now it is time to discuss how ASP.NET Core pipeline works. We have some clients, it can be a laptop, it can be a website, it can be another server. They're sending some request to your web server. And ASP.NET Core can be a self-hosted web server as well. Inside the web server, at a point, middlewares start getting hit. The first middleware will process the request and calls the second middleware and calls the third middleware, and until the end. And the order will be exactly the opposite for the responses. Then each request and response will hit the middleware. The first middleware will hit the first for the requests and will hit the last in the list of the responses. Authentication middleware should always hit first in the orders of the middleware's registration in the program.cs. Authentication should be always before authorization, because authentication middleware is responsible for checking your cookie, your token, and generate the security context for you. Security context or user property in the HTTP context for the application will be set inside this middleware. And after that, in the authorization middleware, you will call your authorization system just to check if the user that authenticated has access to specific actions or not. Let's go to Visual Studio and see how it works in real life. For now, let's just focus on how to authenticate and use cookie-based authentication for a Razor page application. As I explained, we have 4 different projects here, and in this video, I'm just going to talk about the application.ui, which is a Razor page application. In the program.cs, I have nothing special. I added some lines of code, but I commented them. I'm going to explain them one by one to you. And if I go to the pages, you will see that we have the shared pages, which is layout and validation script. I added one more, which is for login partial. We have nothing special here except the only admin page. It is a page that only admins should be able to see this page. And we have account. Account is a folder that by default authentication look for it for opening the login page, opening the access deny page, and things like that. We can change it, but for now let's stick to the basics and to the default things. The first question that we need to answer is how our application realizes that we are authenticated. Let's check it by going to the index page and create a breakpoint here and attach our process. If I go to my home page now, I will see that my breakpoint will get hit. Let's check it. If I go to quick watch and just type user, I will see that I have some informations here. Claims, we are going to explain them later. We have identities, which is a list of different identities that we will have, and one identity. This identity is the most important thing for us. The default identity among all the identities that I have will sit here. As you can see, it says that is authenticated equal false, and it doesn't have any name. It is really important to check if this identity is authenticated or not, because by default all users, when they have access to your application, they will have one identity, which is anonymous identity. But when you log into the server, you will have an identity which is authenticated and which has a name. Let's check the type of this identity. This identity is from type claims.claim identity, and the user is from type claim principals. Some of the namings here are a bit confusing. As an example, claim principal, and things like that, but we will explain them in a bit. Let's go back to code, and detach it. I just created one login file. In the login file, I have a model. In the model, we have username and password. As you can see here, I have one input control and I am getting the username, and I have another input for getting the password. I have validation system here implemented, but it is not what I'm going to focus on today. If I go to login, it is just one normal Razor page. On get, we are doing nothing, but when the user is clicking on the submit button and posting the data, the login data to the server, I'm going to get the data using this credential property. This credential identity is decorated using bind property, which means that it will implement a two-way binding. If a user types something on the UI and posts it to the server, I will have the data here inside the code behind. I'm just checking if the username is equal admin and if the password is equal 123. I'm going to log in if this credential, username and password are correct. For now, we just stick to the static username and password. In the next video, we will see how to use ASP.NET Identity as a membership provider for us. I want to log in using the username and password that I have. And as I explained, user is a part of HTTP context. In the index page, when I put a breakpoint there and show you the user is just a property of HTTP context. And in HTTP context, we have sign in async. This signing async, I guess it is coming from ASP.NET Core Authorization. This one, Microsoft ASP.NET Code Authorization. Yes. And first thing that we need to do is to telling it what is the name of this authentication system. ASP.NET by default is modular, and it is supporting the dependency injection. Combining modularity and dependency injection gives us this capability to tell our ASP.NET pipeline what kind of authentication do I need to use here. As an example here, I'm going to tell it, this is the name of the authentication system that I want to use. What is that? Let's just press F12 on it. It says cookies. It is just a string, but we need to specify to the ASP.NET pipeline that look for what configuration, look for what system of authenticating. Is it cookie? Is it a JSON web token? Or are you going to create your authentication system for yourself? This name is really important. Because of that, we are using a mechanism, a practice, which we call it type safing. Because if you just misspell it somewhere in your application, your whole process for authentication will get failed. Then the most important thing is to tell what is the name of authentication system that you want to use. By authentication system, I mean authentication module. And here we are using cookie authentication default dot authentication scheme. And this one is coming from Microsoft ASP.NET authentication dot cookies. Fine. And after that, this method asks us to provide with the claim principal. Can you remember that the user that I showed you in the quick watch, it was a type of claim principal? We need to create a claim principal here. And this claim principal needs to have an identity. Let's create an identity for this one. Press and enter here. And this is my identity. For identity, we need to create something from claim identity. Can you remember that the identity, the list of identities that we have and the default identity, they were from the type claim identity, which means that we need to pass them some claims and tell them what is the authentication scheme that we have. this identity will be binded behind the scene to the type of the module which is responsible for authenticating this request. Then this name, this authentication scheme should be exactly the same one that we are going to pass to the sign-in method. And what are the claims? Claims are list of claim, and a claim is a dictionary. It's not a dictionary, it's a pair of key and value. The key is the claim type, and the value is the value that you want to put inside the claim. By nature, claims doesn't have any specific meaning, but you need to use them for your authorization. Authorization is the process after authentication that let your user to have access to a specific part of your application. In authentication, we will authenticate the user and we will realize that what are the accesses that the user has, if the user is valid or not, and we fill the security context. Security context or identity are the same thing. We are filling it inside the pipeline of our Asp.NET Core and pass it to the next middlewares. And by adding some values to the claims, we can share this data in our middleware, and the next middlewares like authorization can pick them, use them, and authorize users, authorize access of users to specific controllers or specific actions. Then by definition, they have no meaning, and both keys and values should be a string. We have some predefined types, predefined keys for claims. As you can see here, name. The name has a type, which is this string. Why? Because there are some international conventions about the identity and claims. My identity system is looking for a claim with this ID, with this type, with this name, and pick this value and place it into the name of the identity. And for role, we have another standard and convention. By default, my identity system is going and looking for this claim, pick it up and place it in a place for the role of this identity. Can we change them? Yes, and we will see them in a bit. I explained about the modularity and dependency injection in Asp.NET Core, and we are using HTTP context and then sign in and telling our HTTP context that I'm going to sign in using this name, and this name is for the module which is responsible to authenticate and do the authentication for me. And we usually specify these dependencies and services in the program.cs file. In the program.cs, I'm just using builder.services add authentication. And I should tell it that my authentication name, my authentication scheme is this one. Then we need to use one specific name, one specific string for authentication module that we are adding to the services, because our dependency injection is going to use it later. And for signing in, this add cookie method is responsible for registering some other dependencies which are designed for authenticating using your cookie. And the last thing that you need to do is adding use authentication before use authorization inside your middleware registration part. This part from the part that you create the builder and you build the builder. This part is for registering your services and preparing your dependency injection system to inject whatever you want. And the first time that your application gets hit, and on the first request that it receives, it is going to register everything inside the dependency injection system and create a container. I will create another video about dependency injection, how it works, what does it mean when we call IOC container. If you want, just let me know if it is an interesting topic for you. And from the part that we build the builder until the end of this method, we call it our middleware. Middleware registration is something that you register once, but for each request it will get hit. I explained it in the slides that I showed you, and we need to have the authentication middleware before having authorization middleware. And it is obvious because we need to fill this security context and authenticate our users before we are before looking for the access list of the users for specific actions. Let's save everything and go back to the browser and see how it works. This is my browser. Let's log in with admin and 123. After pressing login, it will says, welcome NetStark. How it knows that what is my name and it was login, how it changed. Let me go back to my project and go to shared and login partial. In the login partial, I'm just checking if user identity is authenticated is true, it is going to show me something. Otherwise, it is just going to show me the login page. Now that I'm logged in, we have a form here. And after that, we have a drop-down list. First, it says welcome user.identity.name. We will check it in a bit. And it will show me some other options. As an example, logout, creating a new user, or see the claim manager. We will work with them in the next video, not now. Let me go back here. I just added some claims. NetStark for the type role, admin for type, NetStark for type name, admin for type role, and for my claim 1, the value is claim value 1, and my claim 2, claim value 2. And I can go to all pages, fine, and by logout, I will get logged out. Let me show you the code behind the logout as well. It is really straightforward. We are using the HTTP context.signout-async, and we just need to specify the name of the module which is responsible for our authentication related actions, which is cookie authentication default.authentication scheme. And if I click on it, you will see the name is just cookies. I can type something here, but for being sure that I don't have any misspelling, I'm using this type saving system. Let me put the breakpoint here again and run the application and see how it works. We checked how it works when we are not logged in. Let's log in and check how is working like now. User, I'm getting the user. I have one identity. Previously, we had one identity as well. And when I open the default identity, I will see that is authenticated is equal true, which is what I wanted. And it says the name of the first identity, the default identity, is NetStark. How it realized that the name of the identity should be NetStark, because I created 4 claims. As you can see here, it has 2 properties, name claim type and role claim type. By default, it is looking for a claim with this specific type or with this specific key or name. As I told you, claim is a key value structure. The key should be this string, and what is the value of this claim will be placed for the name of this identity. And exactly the same thing will happen for for role. What is in the claim with this type or key will be our role. And here you can see that my authentication type is type cookies. The type saving thing that we have, the name was cookies. And we have 4 claims. The first one is name and the value is NetStark. The second one is role and the value is admin. The third one and the fourth one, you can see them here. What if I want to read name of the identity from another claim? Here with claim identity, I have some other overloads. Let me show it to you. We have name. We need to specify the name, the key, the type of the claim that we want to read the name from it. Let me use this one. And after that, we need to specify the role type. And I want to read role from my other claim. And if I save it, and go back to my browser, I need to log out. When I log in and type admin and 123, by logging in, you will see that it reads the value of my claim one and place the value inside the name property of the identity. Then we can use this modularity and dependency injection to almost customize everything. And the last thing for this video that I want to cover is about how to use authorization, really simple authorization. Let me change it. The normal one is better. Here I have a page, only admin user page. If I go here, I can add one authorize attribute here. Before using this authorize attribute, let's check it. If I log out and click on it, only admin, everyone, even the users which are not logged in can have access to it. But when I place authorize attribute on top of that, if I want to use it, it will redirect me automatically to the login page. And how it knows where is our login page? I told you that by default it is looking for the identity related things inside account folder under page folder, and the login.cshtml is the file that it is looking for. We can customize it and we will see it in a bit. By authorize, if I log in using admin and then 123, if I click on it, I will see it. And I can specify something else for it. I can say check for the role for this identity for this user, and if the role is something specific, then let the user to see this page. I'm going to change it to authorize role equal admin1. As you can recall and as you can see it here, the role is admin, but here I'm saying admin1. Let's save it and go to page. I am logged in. If I click on only admin, it is not redirecting me to the login page because I am logged in. I don't have access. It redirects me to access denied page. And we have a return URL here. I haven't implemented the return URL functionality and I'm not going to use it for now. Then the difference between authentication and authorization is that you are a logged in user. It knows that you are logged in, then it is not going to redirect you to the login page, but you don't have access. The access is denied for this user. And if I change it to admin and save it and go back, I said that the user role should be admin and I'm still getting access denied. Why? Let's go back to the code and see it. It is admin, not with capital A. Here, the admin is with capital A. In comparing the strings, C# by nature is case sensitive. For avoiding this kind of issues, I highly recommend use a type saving system and write everything, all the roles that you have, all the policies that you have, everything in a file and type save them. Let me change it to admin and press save. And if I go back here, go to policy and go to admin only again, I will see that the content of this page is available for me. And really the last thing, I can pass some configuration to this cookie authentication as well. The easiest way that I can do that is using some options. I can specify the name of the cookie. I can specify if this cookie is for HTTP or HTTPS, what is the expire date for this cookie, and what is the login path. As I told you, we can customize it. What is the access denied path and some other things. If you just type option and press dot, you will see a lot of options. And here you will see that if I go to the development console, we have some cookies. And if I remove these cookies and press F5, I'm not logged in anymore. Admin 123. When I log in, it is going to create some cookies for me. And these cookies are responsible for sending data from server to the client. And in the next request that client sent to the server, the server will get it inside the authentication middleware. The first time that you log in, you just generate it. You put it inside the cookie, but the second request that the server gets from the user, it is going to look for a cookie with a specific name that you can customize it, read the data inside that, deserialize it, and fill your claims and the rest of the things. If you like this video, please do not forget to like it, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel, and please hit the bell and you will be notified about the next videos that I am uploading. And this is just the first video from the series of videos that you will see about authentication, authorization, and Microsoft Identity membership. Enjoy coding and enjoy your life as a developer, and see you soon.